Hi, this is Alexis, and welcome back to the Whatcha Watchin podcast. Today, I am joined by a very special guest. He's a 36-year NBA veteran. He's been a head coach of 6 different NBA teams, and when he was with the Golden State Warriors, they won a championship in 2015. He also just so happens to be my dad. Welcome to the podcast, Alvin Gentry.
Well, thank you so much for that great introduction. I appreciate that.
I'm so glad you're here. Now, you're here because we this is kind of a unique situation. Normally, I talk about movies, I talk about stuff like that. I got a lot of people that are like film fans, but for this, there is a TV show called Clipped, and you happen to be there when all of the stuff in that show was going down. And not only that, but you are a character on that show. So I was like, who better to discuss this show with than you?
That is correct. That is correct. I was a character in this, and I was there when most of this took place.
Exactly. So we're just gonna kind of let's give maybe some overall kind of first impressions of the show. I know the casting has been something that the internet has had a lot to say about. What did you think as far as kind of the portrayal of real events versus were they heightened a lot for TV, or would you say they got it pretty right as far as how everything went down?
Well, first of all, I'll address the casting part. I think Denzel was very busy, so he could not play my role in this in this
Unfortunately,
series.
Denzel was booked, so you know.
No, but I thought they did a fairly good job of really touching on some things that happened there. Obviously some of them was embellished a little bit for TV, but I would say for the most part, most of the things that they had in the show are things that actually happened. When I was there.
Totally. I was super impressed with Ed O'Neill. I think I grew up with him as Al Bundy, and so it was such an interesting change of pace to see him in this role, and I felt like he seemed like he was just really getting into it, like he was having a lot of fun with this role, and I think I loved him in this. I just thought he was great.
Yeah, actually, I thought he did a great job. Just the overall character and the mannerisms that he had, and some of the things that was said, the dialogue that he had in the movies or the series. So I thought he did an outstanding job.
He was fantastic. How did you so something that really surprised me about this, I did not expect to see LeVar Burton. And I thought, "Oh, maybe this has been added for for TV value." But you told me LeVar Burton is actually just like really good friends with Doc, and this is kind of like how this all went down.
Well, I think it was. I mean, obviously, I think it. A lot of the things that happened there, I'm not sure if they happened. But him being in the series, I thought was good. But I thought that was more. They did more for the TV drama of it
Totally.
than things that actually happened with Doc and LeVar.
He seemed like a very good character to bring in as somebody to kind of get when Doc wants to reflect on his feelings and everything. It's like, and here's LeVar Burton, LeVar Burton pops up to be to be sort of a sounding board and everything there.
Yeah, kinda. I think that they had to find a way uh, for Doc to be able to explain his feelings and things like that, and it wasn't one of those things where you turn to the camera and you do this. So they did a good job of adding that in. But like I said, some of it I don't. I can't say that
For sure.
things that actually happened between he and LeVar.
Totally. How do you feel like, these actors are doing in terms of obviously, it's a show, so that it's everything's got to be heightened. But how do you feel like, it was like with some of the players or, how do you feel like they're kind of capturing the people that they're portraying?
Well, I thought the best casting was with Shelley. I thought that Shelley Sterling, the actress that played her, did a really a phenomenal job, an outstanding job. Just the whole mannerisms and the way she spoke, and the just the her facial expressions and everything. I thought she did an outstanding job. And then, as I said, I thought Ed O'Neill was tremendous as the way he played Donald Sterling and the things that and his whole mannerisms and the way he spoke and the things that he did. And then I did think the young lady that played V did an outstanding job. Just
Absolutely.
that whole situation and the whole relationship, which I was just there for the year. When that was going on, but I just thought those three were the ones that I thought was cast really well.
What would you say, like, I feel like this was during the pandemic and when everyone was in the bubble. I feel like that was when we really saw kind of like the NBA embrace Black Lives Matter and really get like more kind of political and everything. But I feel like this was almost kind of like the precursor to that, where this was where that sort of started kind of bubbling and started brewing and becoming a thing. Um, from being in the NBA for 50 million years, how do you feel like the kind of like progression of like players being able to be more politically active or being able to make more of a statement, like how has that kind of played out over time, do you
Well,
think?
I think if you go back, our guys was ready to do anything that they thought was gonna let everyone understand their situation and their plight as far as what was going on there, as far as the ownership and things like that. The thing I was there for a year with CP, but I think Chris Paul has obviously you can see where he's gone as far as the support and everything he's given for Black Lives Matter and just for anything that has to do with just the right thing to do and I think if it was left up to him alone, I think he would have said that the guy should probably not have played. Just knowing CP the way I do and things like that, and he's furthered that cause so much, since all of this have taken place. Uh, and it was a tough situation for the guys. There was two sides of it. I'm sure one of them was is that they did not want to play for this man and the things that had been said and the way it was presented to them. And then on top of all of that, I think some of the guys wanted to play and wanted to win in spite of him, and that's where the kind of tough decision and the disconnect was with some of the players as far as what should be done and what shouldn't be done.
Yeah, they really presented, especially sort of at that finale, kind of the do we play, do we not play, as kind of a pivotal moment where everybody was kind of coming together and trying to figure out like how do we navigate this situation. Because I think, there had probably been maybe like little individual kind of within the team things that had happened before, but this was on such a public stage. I mean, TMZ was releasing the tapes and all that. Was it just like being in that, was it just like a media frenzy or, and then also you had social media too, kind of like exploding at that time. How like was it insane to be in that in the middle of all that?
There was just so many things going on, and I mean, obviously being in LA and them, you know, the whole situation of bringing Magic into the situation where you're talking about him not attending and not coming to games and things like that. Uh, I just think all that did was just really add flames to the fire, if you want to say that. But it was just so much going on, and and let's not forget now we're talking about young guys. We're not talking about 45-year-old men making a decision. We're talking about guys in their early 20s at that time, and a few of them in their mid 20s. But they're trying to decide what is the right thing to do, and it was something that was unprecedented. It hadn't happened from that situation as far as an ownership standpoint where an owner is being disciplined by the league. So I did think that Adam Silver did a unbelievable job of making a decision and making it quickly. It wasn't something that dragged on for weeks and weeks and weeks. It was something that basically they investigated, found out the situation, and then I think they delivered I think they delivered the punishment so that guys understood that that was not going to be tolerated in the NBA.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like there was a point to be made of like we're drawing a line in the sand here where, whatever was going on before this, like you need to know that this ends now and this is not moving forward. This is not the type of thing that we're going to be okay with at all.
Yeah, and I think that's what Adam wanted. I think that's why the decision was made so quickly. I think that he wanted everyone to understand that, this is something that's not going to be tolerated in this league, not even by people that own the team. Uh, and, if you look around the league, and there has been obviously another situation in Phoenix that took place. But I think what Adam was saying is that, we're going to monitor this, and then if something happens, we're going to make a decision, and it's going to be swift. And if we think it's something that's justified, then the punishment will fit the crime.
I think with this story, it's interesting because, we just recently had like The Last Dance, right? Which is
Yeah.
like documentary, very like, archival footage, interviews, all that. And with this, we had this very sort of heightened kind of dramatized version of events. Do you think like I guess sort of is there anything to why this story maybe got the kind of drama treatment versus maybe like a 30 for 30 sort of style documentary thing? Is it just because it's more like salacious and more controversial?
First of all, it's in LA.
True.
I'm not sure if the impact would have been the same if it was in one of the smaller markets, say like OKC or Memphis or something like that. But obviously, being in LA and all the media coverage that is that is there with all the teams, I mean, you think about it, and just in one little area, there's the Clippers, the Lakers, the Angels, the Dodgers, the Rams, and I mean, the Chargers. So, you're talking about six major teams right there. And then if you add in the hockey teams, with the Kings and, the Anaheim Ducks, you got a lot of sports right there in that area, within a 20-mile radius, really. So I think when you have that and you're in a city of that size, when things like this come out, it's going to be magnified, I think. So, but it was something that at the time, like you said, I think the Black Lives Movement was just coming into being, and just that situation right there, and the tape, I think, was something that obviously that you just couldn't look past.
For sure. Yeah. Would you say that there were like any particular moments on the show that really stood out to you, either for like, that's not how that went down, or something where you're like, wow, they really kind of nailed that? Was there anything like a specific kind of scene or moment in there that you thought they either did like a really great job with it, or that you were like, this could have used maybe a rewrite or
Well,
something?
I don't remember Shelly being on our bus, our team bus. You know, not that I can recall. I don't. So that was
Mhm.
one of the things that I said. Well, that didn't really happen. I don't
Maybe
see it
played
that
up
way.
a little for drama
I would
purposes,
I would think so, because I do not remember her being on our bus and stuff like that. I do remember that Mr. Sterling had every intentions of coming to one of the games, and I think in the end, the league say no, you cannot, be present at one of the games and stuff. So, but I thought for the most part, they tried to touch on not more so specific things, but kind of a thing of this is the way the guy kind of run the team. This is the way it was done, and these are the people that was involved in some of it.
Yeah. I noticed we got, it kind of gave us an interesting view of like from the players' perspectives and then all the way through like people in, in the admin and in the sort of front office and kind of how it impacted everybody. Um where do you see sort of like the big differences between, I mean, the players have to be like out there in the public, but then you also have kind of like the administrative arm of it trying to reckon with all this. And then I feel like coaches are kind of like straddling both of those things because I feel like you have more contact with both of those
Well, and I
sides.
think you make a
Um
great point there about between, the coaches and what they have to do as far as, you almost got to walk right in the middle of the line, and, you're dealing with ownership, but you're also dealing with your players, and you want them to understand that, hey, you're with them. I mean, you're with your players. They've got to feel that, and they've got to know that. And I think that's what Doc was trying to do with our team. It was a tough situation for him. All of a sudden, not only is the situation there, but it's dropped in his hands where, okay, now you're in charge. You've got to run this team until we find replacements and stuff. So not only is he coaching the team, but he's running the team and he's making decisions about who should be there and who should not be there. And he had to speak to everybody that worked there because they were in a process of going to walk out. They were not going to work there under any circumstance if something wasn't done. And I think the same thing with Andy Rozier. He was a guy that was involved in it, and at that time, I don't think that people really felt like he had done a lot to protect them, and they felt like they did not want to work in an environment where he was going to still be the boss. So there was a lot of things that went on. Like I said, that it was unprecedented. It hadn't happened before. This hadn't been something that have gone on in sports. Most of the things stayed undercover. If it was racially motivated or not racially motivated, anything that happened that involved players or situations or it's like if you go back, nobody really talked about, or it wasn't really done about Bill Russell and people like that not being able to stay at the hotels that the team stayed at. And there were certain situations where the ownership or the coach or whatever said, then we're not staying at your hotel. So that was good. The only thing I would say about the whole series is that I don't think Elgin Baylor really got his due. Because the situation that he had to work under. I don't think anybody would have been successful. I really don't. It was really tough. Elgin is a incredibly smart guy that knows talent, and if given the opportunity to acquire players like most of the other GMs would have, I think he would have put together a very good team. But just the treatment of him, I still think is despicable. I really do. The way he was moved out and all the things that was happened, and then they used the fact that they weren't winning against him. He may have had something to do with it, but there was a whole lot of other factors that made it so that team wasn't as good as it could have been.
Yeah, for sure. I think they kind of like touch on that a little bit, and he gets like the last word in the show, which I feel like is a real like intentional thing of we're going to sort of cap this all off with him. But like you mentioned Bill Russell, I think there is a real these guys that were there from way back, they really experienced some
Oh
stuff,
yeah.
and I think I thought that was sort of an interesting choice. He's like his story is not a huge part of it, but I did think it was interesting how he like they try to kind of be like, and also here's Elgin, and like if we want to talk about this happening over time, like we should talk about him a
Well,
little
I
bit.
do, and
Do you think maybe there should have been
you
more
know,
of
and I
that?
would say the only thing uh, that was I wouldn't say discouraging, but a little thing that I was taken aback a little bit is that this is not something that happened the last 2 years or the last year. Uh, this is things that have been going on there uh, for a lot of years. That I'm a little bit surprised that this didn't go back and talk about some of the things that have happened way in the past, long before the thing rose with the tape. But there was other situations I think that they could have touched on that they didn't.
Yeah, it's a little bit of like, I think that's maybe where the TV factor of like the sort of salaciousness of the tape and TMZ and V with their visors and
Yeah.
it was such a like a perfect storm of just media stuff at that time, that I feel like they did that, but they did kind of have an opportunity to say more about how over time this was
Yeah.
a thing,
Yeah.
and how this was something this is not like a brand new problem. He didn't just do this on the tape. Like this was an overall kind of
Yeah, and that's
attitude,
the only
you
thing I
know?
wish they would have touched on a little bit more. Some of the things that happened, like I said, long before that. I worked for the Clipper organization 3 times. I was there as an assistant, I was there as the head coach, and then I was there as a associate head coach. So I was with that organization 3 times, and there was things that I think they could have gone back and touched on that they just really kind of zeroed in on really that year. They covered that year, and that was really it. Didn't really touch on anything that it may have been worthy of being talked about before that.
True. How do you feel about, this show uh versus something like Winning Time, which I feel like really gave so much more, like it really like focused, there was a lot of character development, we had a lot of stories going on. How do you feel like this stacks up to
Well,
something like Winning
I
Time?
wasn't around the Laker organization, so I don't really know, but I thought they did try to do a good job. I would say that the guy that played Kareem did an outstanding job, from what I know about
Yeah,
Kareem,
so
and I don't
impressive.
really, but I thought the Magic character, he did a great job, and just the whole thing I thought was well done, and and it wasn't this thing that everything was rah rah rah. They touched on some pretty controversial things and some really things that
Yeah, for sure.
was tough to deal with in the organization. But I thought that was really good, and I think there's just a matter of time before we start seeing some more things along that line. Winning Time, or obviously the whole thing with the uh, clipped, and there was the
Mhm.
whole Chicago Bull things that you went through. So I
Yeah.
think there's other things that's going to start to be developed, and I think there'll be shows on that also.
Well, before we wrap up, I thought, since you are like an actual guy in professional sports, I was wondering if you could recommend maybe three really good sports movies, or what are three movies that, revolve around sports that you would say like, oh, that's top notch stuff. Like these are great
Well, I
movies.
would say the number one movie, if you want to see a sports movie, would have to be Brian's Song, and it's a
Nice.
movie based on Gail says, uh, and I just had a blank on his name, but it's basically about teammates and how they support each other. Uh, and I that would be my number one movie. I think if you were going to watch a sports movie, and then there's some other one that's kind of comical and stuff, but it's a movie based on really kind of the merger of the NBA and the ABA at the time, and the name of it just slipped my mind, but what?
Semi-Pro? I think it's
Yes,
Semi-Pro with the one with
yes,
Will Ferrell.
yeah, that would be one that
That's a
was
fun movie.
that's worth watching. That gives you a lot of laughs, I think, and that one was well done also. And then third one
Nice.
would be let's see.
A lot of people say Hoosiers, I
Well,
feel like is a good
yeah,
one.
I would say Hoosiers is one. Just because that's based on a true story. It's about a little small town in Indiana called Milan, and it was very very small. And at that time, and it hadn't been changed that long, but when you won the state championship in the state of Indiana, you were really the state champs. You weren't the Division 1 or the Division 2 or the 5A or the 4A, because they all played each other, and whoever was left standing was the champ. And I thought they did a great job of Gene Hackman was absolutely amazing in that movie.
Big fan.
So. And then I'm sure when this is over, I'll think about four of the ones where I go, man, I should have bought this one up. So
Awesome. Well, Dad, thank you so much for doing this. This has just been one of those things where the second they announced the show, I was very
yeah, I
excited.
know, I
And
know.
when they said someone is gonna be playing your dad, I was even more
Yeah,
excited.
I know, I know.
So I'm
Well, I'd just like to say though that
you were getting a lot of
yeah, I
text
would just
from
like to
me.
say though I'm so proud of you and uh, everything that you're doing,
Thank
and
you.
your podcast and everything has just been absolutely great, and that can be judged by the number of followers that you're picking up here and there. So continue the great work, and couldn't be more proud of you.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, thank you to my dad for joining and stick around for more. Follow, like, subscribe, all of those things. And I will catch you in the next one.